Okay, for a textured bowl, the way we're going to be painting these is we're going to be painting them with acrylic paint, and we're going to be doing something called staining and then dry brushing. So right here, what I have is a mixture of some black acrylic paint and some water. And that's going to get me like a nice kind of stain. It's not thick, it's pretty thin. And what that's going to do is it's going to go in the crevices of all of my texture on my bowl. So I want all that dark to kind of settle in those creases. So you can see all my textures are starting to become very, very prominent because they're going to have this black in the inside them. And then what we're going to do is the next paint that we put on here is going to be metallic, and we're going to kind of float that metallic right over top of this texture using a technique called dry brushing. So I'll be right back after I've completely covered this bowl in my black stain. Okay, so now I have my bowl completely stained with black. So you can see that the black is settling inside of my textures that I have on the outside of my bowl. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use some acrylic metallic paint. And this is going to be the dry brush technique that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to dip it into the acrylic. Sorry. And I'm going to, on a piece of paper towel, I'm going to kind of get rid of some of it. So now what's going to happen is as my brush shouldn't be like soaking wet, it should just have like a little bit of paint on it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lightly kind of float my brush over my texture. So my brush is mostly dry, has a little bit of metallic on it. And then as I kind of brush over my texture, it's going to leave the dark in my texture, and then I'm going to have a nice, I'm getting only the high points are going to have metallic on them. So my brush is not soaking wet with paint. It's just that's why it's called dry brush. I'm using a dry brush with some paint on it and not a lot of paint. Again, I'm kind of dabbing it off on a paper towel so that I have like a dry amount. On my brush. Okay, so you're going to be doing this dry brush technique over your textures to give your bowl some added dimension. Okay, that's it.